Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. We can't hear you.
Muted. Can you hear me now online?
Is it blinking or is it solid?
We can hear
Yes.
you now,
Okay.
Sheikh.
It was blinking.
Okay, yeah,
That's what.
that was muted.
Sorry.
Um, yeah, that's good.
That's good. Anyone agree with that or disagree?
No, you should understand why you do what you do.
No. Okay. Should you learn about the opposing opinion to understand your opinion better?
Yes.
I think it depends.
Because if what does Allah tell you in the Quran?
You tell me.
Go out and seek knowledge. Yeah, if you don't know, ask someone who knows. And like try to falsify it, wouldn't try to falsify it, being asking questions that are opposed to it.
I think it depends on what stage you're at in your learning. Because if yani, I'm a baby and if I'm asking from different sort, I think that's really good for like solidifying knowledge that's already been given a foundation. But if you're too early, it's just gonna cause a lot of confusion.
Okay. And the one of the sisters mentioned a tip for seeking knowledge is that you learn difference of opinions and the opposing opinion so that you may be able to strengthen the opinion that you hold.
I think even if you are new to it, I think there's a difference between like I probably shouldn't even mention this because it's not good to like talk about it, but like I know there's a lot of like controversy around topics in Islam in this day and age because of like cultural differences. Like for instance, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is having a child with Maria, the Coptic. And you might not, you as a sheikh probably would not give like a halqa to the mass public about it in an effort to not confuse someone. But you would, if someone did know and heard about it, it would be beneficial for them to hear what Islam has to say, because there is an off chance that in the West you heard the other side where, oh, how come Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a slave? I thought, Islam wasn't about that and he had traveled. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can always hear like the one side, that it's always good to still, if you have heard about it, learn about the other. But I do agree that there are some things maybe you as a sheikh wouldn't like reach to like the general public. Like I'm sure the debates you and your mashayikh friends have, like way over. You know what I mean? For real pontificating. Like we could never, but
Never is a bold word.
So, but like,
So is it when an opinion is against a false opinion or when you're learning different valid opinions?
I think you're learning different about.
But the example you gave is when you're posing something that's a false opinion.
Like, for me, I guess the way I'm sort of thinking of it is like, I think regardless of the situation, you should learn about it, but I think like as a sheikh, it is up to your discretion of the things you teach to the general public, because you do have to back it up with differing opinions, because it is the person's kind of right to sort of ask, well, okay, what about the flip side to this? Because you're not always gonna have someone that like can sort of swallow down hard truth, you know, and that's why we have there's a lot of confusion in Islam, and there can be doubts and whatnot, and may Allah like guide all of us to help quench our doubts, but it's like a real thing.
What I heard, I think it's a hadith from Ali ibn Talib, I'm not sure. He said like you as a alim or someone who knows maybe so like a bit, you can't say everything to everyone.
Mhm.
Because if you know these people aren't gonna understand it properly, then it's better to not even mention it. Then they're gonna take that and start dragging it with them and doing stuff. And also sometimes when you argue with other people like non-Muslims and Muslims, sometimes like each one is like when we argue with Muslims, some Muslims they're not like that religious, they don't have that fiqh, so they just talk from conceptual things. They don't have a dalil, they don't have things, and they just go off emotions sometimes, like, oh, you shouldn't have Muslim slaves and stuff. They didn't go and read and all that stuff.
Is it the hadith of
Oh, you keep answers very short.
is it the hadith of Mu'adh that
I'm the teacher here. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, is it the hadith of Mu'adh that some tabi'in came and they asked for it from somebody and he said, this is the hadith, there's more to it, but I forgot the rest of it. And then they go to the other guy and he narrates it to them and they're like, so and so said there's more to this hadith, and he said, Wallahi, I wouldn't have narrated, I wouldn't have told you if you hadn't asked specifically about it out of fear of you becoming complacent. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Hmm.
Is it the hadith of Mu'adh?
I know the hadith. I'm not sure if it's Mu'adh or not.
Okay.
You got anything? You got anything?
I got another tip. I got.
No, let's keep that for next week. Save that for next week.
Inshallah.
It's good that we have a general understanding or specific understanding of.
One second. The question is, should we learn about opposing opinions when we are learning the opinion, including valid opinions and false?
So understand like
Okay.
the range of validity, because students that there's some hadith that somebody take as like, they take that, but maybe like Hanafis would not take it, kind of, that's what I mean, sort of, but I'm generalizing it to all knowledge, I'm not just saying specific place, actually. Anyway, sorry, Muhammad, continue.
That's
Your
right.
name is Muhammad, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
Go for it.
that's
On Tuesdays.
I don't know what that means. So, yeah. The value of nuance, right? We all understand the value of nuance and being able to understand specific things within specific contexts. And so generally speaking, I think what she said is on point.
You got something, Nida?
I also agree.
Yeah. Okay, what about when the Prophet ﷺ told us not to read the Bible?
Yeah, so to a certain extent.
I think that leans more towards blasphemy though, than it does towards learning about the other religion. Because didn't he live with the Yahudis? So he learned about their cultures, he knew about their ways, he knew about their teaching. Doesn't necessarily mean, because like I get mad when I hear even like people that are of our faith that might be a different sect say something that is blasphemous in my opinion about the Sahabas and whatnot. Like you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're reading something that borders on shirk, especially with the Bible where they make three into one. Like you wouldn't want to read something like that in general.
Is that why the Prophet ﷺ
No.
He mentioned it was about seeking guidance because our deen is complete, so seeking guidance from other places. But like one thing I would say is like in the introductory text and all the like different curriculums for the different madhab that I've seen, like the first few books that you learn from don't have any of the dalil, they don't have any of they just have the opinion. And you learn the opinion, like you'll memorize the book and then you'll go and get the understanding from the sheikh.
Okay, let's summarize this. There's some validity to everyone's opinion, but in general, if you're studying fiqh specifically, you only stick to one opinion in the beginning. Every now and then you can learn about an opposing opinion just so that you can memorize one opinion. And once you pass that level, you can add another opinion, you can compare with other opinions so that you can have a solid foundation. It's not in itself bad, but it's just so that you don't get confused. When a person is learning 3 opinions, we go over, sometimes 50 issues in one halaqah, right? In one class. If I were to give you 4 opinions for every of those 450 issues, you would end up with 200 opinions, at least, if not more, right? Some of the issues have more than 4 opinions. And then you will go home and you will have no idea what is. So when you learn fiqh initially, it's highly recommended to only stick to one opinion. As for other issues, especially like theological issues where the opposing opinion is not a valid difference of opinion, but it's actually something wrong, then it depends on how knowledgeable you are. Because sometimes if a person doesn't have solid understanding of the basics of Islam and he learns something that is from the opposite religion, he can very easily be convinced of that. And hence why the Prophet ﷺ told us to not read the Bible, is because you might read something that you like and you start thinking that this is the truth, and you might start falling into that. But when you reach a certain level of understanding Islam properly, then you can go and study the Bible because you understood Islam properly, right? Same with when we ask Allah, Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'an. Oh Allah, bless us with beneficial knowledge, because some knowledge can be harmful. Some knowledge can be harmful. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't ask about things that if they were revealed to you, they will harm you. Certain things, it's sometimes as they say, ignorance is bliss. Sometimes not knowing about certain things. A person who only knew about Islam and is completely an ignorant person in everything else in the world, can't read or write, can do basic math, lives a very uncivilized life, but knows Allah is one and prays 5 times a day, is better than anyone else who might be like a CEO of a CEO of a great company, and a pioneer or whatever, and he doesn't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Him being ignorant was a bliss. Right?
Is that like hadith of water? Or like when Allah says like, don't go out at night, because if you knew what I knew.
I don't know the
Or
hadith.
hadith of Hilal.
That's enough. I don't want to, because people online are not involved in the course. I understand.
That's how you gotta tell us to come on site.
But when you have passed like a few levels, especially like in fiqh, then it really helps understanding the other opinion to solidify your opinion or to be convinced with the other opinion. Then going into that back and forth, and you'll find that in books of fiqh, they will bring in the advanced books of fiqh. They'll bring in the opposite or opposing opinions to refute them, to prove that. Yeah. They'll say the Shafi say this, and their proof is this. Our proof is this, and this is how we refute their proof, right? Every madhab has it, not only Hanbali. Every madhab has those books where they, discuss comparative fiqh. Okay, moving on, inshallah. Last week we finished the recommended acts of salah. Today, inshallah, we got obligations. Today we'll go over the recommended acts of prayer. There are 2 things in our prayer. One is actions and one is sayings. We mentioned, what is the definition of prayer?
The set of actions that begins with Allahu Akbar and ends with the Taslim.
Yeah, an act of worship that starts with this, an act of worship that consists in sayings and actions that begins with takbir and ends with taslim, right? That is the definition of prayer. So all prayer is a combination of actions and sayings. What are some of the actions that are recommended for a person to do? When we're going over this slide, when we say this is something recommended, what does that imply? That if you don't do it, is there any deficiency in your prayer?
Yeah.
No. But if you do them, it increases the ajr in your prayer. So the first thing is placing the right hand over the left below the navel. And we covered last week how to do that. You grab your left wrist with your right hand and you place it below your navel. That is sunnah for a person to do. So a person was praying with his hands like this. Is it okay?
Mhm.
It's okay, completely fine. The second is raising the hands when the takbir for ruku', the first takbir, and rising up from the ruku'. So there are 3 times where it's recommended for a person to raise his hands. First is when you begin the prayer, Allahu Akbar, where do you raise it to? Parallel to your shoulders. The second is when you are going into ruku', and the third is when you stand up and rise from ruku'. 3 places where it's recommended for you to raise your hands. What about when you stand up from 2 rakahs? You'll find certain people, they'll be in tashahhud, first tashahhud, either they'll raise their hands before they get up for ruku', or after they stand up from ruku', they'll raise their hands. There's a difference of opinion whether that's valid or not. Imam Ahmad used to say it seems pretty close to it being authentic, but I'm still not convinced that it's fully authentic. And okay, so these are 3 times when okay. This is the sunnah, but the act of saying Allahu Akbar is
Obligatory, and then the first one is okay.
very good. Rukun. That's very good. All of them are obligatory or obligations, except for the first one, which is
You have to, like, there's no salah without
there's
it.
also a salah without doing it, right? Okay, something I forgot to mention, which just came to my mind. Okay. And you said if you don't perform the pillar, what happens?
You have to redo it.
Yeah, you have to redo it. If a person, we'll cover the mistakes later, but I just want you guys to think a little bit. If a person forgets to do his first takbir and he starts praying, in the fourth rakah, what should he do?
So.
Does he repeat the first rakah?
No, he has to restart it.
He has to repeat entirely. Why?
Because the intention.
Because he didn't even begin his prayer.
Yeah,
He didn't even begin his prayer, right?
because even if you're saying Allahu Akbar, there was no intention to start the prayer.
Yeah, the prayer didn't start. Right.
Because of the definition of salah, right? Begins with
The takbir, and not only that, because it's a pillar. If you don't fulfill the pillar, nothing after that is valid, right? Even if you forgot, right? Hence, when you join the imam mid-prayer, especially when the imam is in ruku' or in sujood, you are planning to do 2 takbirs. You say Allahu Akbar, and then you say Allahu Akbar again for going down, right? Now, if you do one with the intention of takbir, with the intention of your first takbir, meaning the takbir al-ihram, then your prayer is valid. But if you keep it the intention that I'm doing takbir because I'm transitioning into sujood, then you haven't done your first takbir. Do you get that? The preferred way is that you do 2 takbirs, Allahu Akbar and then Allahu Akbar. But if you do one, you're asked. We ask you, what did you intend? Did you intend the first takbir or the transitioning takbir or the initial takbir? If you say the initial takbir, then you missed out on the transitional takbir, which is an obligation which can be waived through other ways. You forgot to do that, which can be compensated in other ways. But if you said, no, I only did the transitional takbir, I did not intend the initial takbir, then your prayer did not even begin, right? Yes.
Okay, when you join late, you're standing. So even if the sheikh is already in sajda or is already in ruk'ah, you have to say another takbir to go into
Join,
the position.
yes.
Okay.
And you have to do that while standing up. It's very important. That some people might be in a hurry and they might go Allahu Akbar. No, the first takbir has to be done while you are standing up. So Allahu Akbar, then Allahu Akbar, then you go down. Right?
Even if you can't stand up, someone has to stand you up.
That's a different issue. We covered that already. Yes.
this is for the sake of redundancy. You catch the salah in the mid-five, right? All you need to do is just say one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Raising the index finger when the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned. And you mentioned how many times is that done? 4 times. 4 times. How do we do that? You curl up your first 2 fingers. Then you make a circle out of your middle finger and your thumb, and you keep the index finger. It's very close to some gang signs.
Which one's shit?
Way before that.
Looking in
What's
trouble.
close up, sorry.
I mean, we have a blue background.
Is there a Hanbali gang sign?
Stop.
Takbir. All right. Performing iftirash when sitting. We mentioned iftirash and tawarruk. Iftirash is when you have your right foot up and you're sitting on your left foot. That is iftirash. Tawarruk in the last tashahhud is when you slide your left foot under your left foot under your right foot. Right? Tawarruk with a kaf, not a qaf.
That's hard to do.
Tawarruk is something
It's tying up, right? Or
I don't know. Tawarruk is something that is in buyu and
So it's a calf, not a
transactions. Yeah. If we say tawarruk,
It's a care.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying like if you're trying to pronounce that,
هو الركن.
Easier with the cap. So how is it harder with the cap?
because your throat is already with the fall. Yeah, see, you hear the fall.
You gotta turn it into Arabic.
So what rook? It's not a ball, not a cat.
The what?
What rook?
No, he's saying it's easier. Never mind. Never mind. It's redundant. It's redundant. There's no use.
Okay.
We know what it is.
Okay. We mentioned that you can sit in any way you want. These are the preferred ways to sit, and there is one way that you should not sit, which is, would you extend both of your feet out, and you sit on your behind. That is something that the Prophet ﷺ told us not to do. Turning right and left during taslim, we mentioned those are sunnahs, meaning the obligation or the rukn is, sorry, not obligation, the pillar is to,
One side, right?
no, both, but is the verbalization of it, right? The pronunciation of the word, not the turning. The action is a sunnah, the saying is the pillar, right? In terms of saying, the sunnahs are the opening dua, which is
No, no.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسمك وتعالى جدك ولا إله إلا
I thought you said ending.
أنت. Yeah.
My brain went off.
Do you call it sana or no? Nida. Yeah. Stacy's call it sana. I don't know if you know
It's
that.
not that easy.
She's not that. Okay.
No, not that.
You don't have to talk about this issue.
That's not, no, that's not what I'm saying, like, not that Daisy in particular, like.
Yeah. So Desi's call it sana. This is the dua sana. They say.
You know what's funny?
Sana comes from thana, which means to praise Allah. There's another dua which is Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khataya kama ba'adta bayna al-mashriq wal maghrib. There's another dua they can do.
Recommended when you're like seeking forgiveness, like you've done something bad.
Yeah, it is. It is. But that was also one of the narrations that mentioned you could say this dua as well, as the opening dua. Al-isti'adha. What is isti'adha?
I would have been dead.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. What is isti'adha come from? Is a way to describe the entire word. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. This is isti'adha. Similarly, say basmala is for.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
They say hawqala.
Al-Qala is لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. There are many more, but I forgot.
Nasima
We
is
get really
just
soupy
that.
here.
Basmala, they say.
No, Nasima is just Bismillah. Basmala is like the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Reading a surah after Fatiha in the first surah kaz is a sunnah, right? If a person in his first surah kaz doesn't read any surah after Fatiha, it's valid. But if he misses Fatiha, it's a pillar, right? It's a pillar for who?
Everyone. The imam.
And
The person-
Yeah, behind, that's what I'm saying, everyone. Like if the Fatiha is wrong, then the salah is invalid.
no, Fatiha is a pillar for the imam and the person praying individually. As for the person praying behind the imam, it's not an obligation on them. It's not a pillar for them.
His salah counts?
Yeah, we mentioned that. In all prayers, whether they're silent prayers or loud prayers. So even in Dhuhr and Asr, if a person is praying behind the imam and they don't recite Fatiha, their prayer is valid.
What if he's reciting the Fatiha?
As long as the imam is reciting Fatiha.
Okay.
Even if he's not saying Allah.
Even if he's not saying Allah.
I have a question.
Yes, Frank.
I have a question. So reading Surah after Fatiha in the first Surah, guys, is it disliked? Or is it something that's like
In the last surah, you mean?
yeah, and other than the first two, if you read other than Fatiha.
It's disliked. It won't be something haraf.
So if you I'll ask, okay, I'll ask the other one when we go over mistakes.
Okay, yes, right.
I have two small questions. So let's say like right now in Isha, I came to Raka'a late, right? Raka'atain late. When I go and have to do the other two after you did the taslim, do I just do Fatiha or do I do Qul Huwallahu Ahad after it?
It's a very good question.
And then also
That's my
another thing
question.
is when I
That was your question?
and then another thing is like let's say when I'm doing the tahiyyat, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing it for the last one, with you, but for me, that's the second or whatever. Yes, the second. Do I say the Salawat Ibrahimiyya or
Maybe your
can I
first.
just stop on the Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah?
Question. I'll answer that one second. Yeah.
Can I answer the first one that he asked?
Yeah.
Can I take a shot at answering?
Okay, go for it.
You say your Fatiha and Surah for whatever count rak'ah you're on. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, so because I did the first two with him, then I say Qul Huwallahu
Okay, I'll form the question a better way. You joined me at the Imam in my third rakah. Is that your first or is that your third?
Your
My
third.
first.
That's your first. It's not your third.
So when you finish your third, you pay your third and fourth before you paid your first and second.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying it's whatever you are, I'm with you.
Shouldn't you be following me?
Yeah, yeah.
Should we follow? Should you be? Okay. Does the prayer have to be done in order? Do you have to do your first rakah before you do your second rakah?
Yes.
No.
Basic
Yes.
sense,
Rakah.
right? But you also have to follow the Imam.
All the at the same time, you would do all the things that you missed. Say, for instance, if you missed tahiyya, you would end up doing your tahiyya on the third rakah when there isn't technically
Wait.
one.
So you're saying that's your first rakah?
Yeah.
That's your first rakah.
Yes.
No,
I don't think it's-
I'd say I'll follow you. I have to.
You proved what he said because you wouldn't have done
I
tashahhud there,
then have to follow.
but because you're following him,
I'll go-
that overrode
Okay.
that overrode yours, and you did the tashahhud.
Praying alone,
Oh.
after I.
Okay. I got you. I got a scenario for you guys. You join the Imam in his third rakah for Maghrib. Yeah.
When did you join? When did you join?
With Fatiha, you caught the rakah. You caught the rakah. Yeah, you caught the third rakah with the Imam. Imam gave his salams. I gave my salams. You stand up. Which rakah is that?
You're done,
Well, I
you're
won.
about it, because you gave your setup to make up the last two.
Whoa.
No,
whoa,
I was in my-
whoa, that's minute.
I was in my last rakah. I'm the Imam.
Second rak'ah, or you can say.
Okay.
You're in your first.
Okay, let's keep it smooth.
Civil.
I in my third rakah, I'm the Imam. I'm leading Maghrib. You join me in my third rakah. I am leading. I led first and second rakah. I'm in my third rakah leading. You guys join me, right? Now when I give salams, you guys stand up. Are you guys praying your second rakah or are you guys praying your first rakah?
Your first.
So that means when you pray your first rakah, you got to stand up. You don't do tashahhud in that.
Exactly.
So you're praying your first rakah, right?
So do you sit in that rakah or no?
Sorry, what was the question? So one more time. Sorry, because
I'm leading Maghrib.
Right, I catch that rakah with you, the full thing.
Yeah, full thing.
Right.
So you prayed your third with me.
Mhm.
Okay. Now when you get up after I've done my salams, you get up to continue to remain. Now you're doing your first and second rakah.
Correct.
Right? And your first rakah of Maghrib, do you sit in tashahhud?
No,
So would you sit in that rakah?
but I'm saying that you would because that's technically your second.
No, it's
That's
not.
what I'm
no,
saying.
no.
Because you have to follow the imam, you khalas.
Yeah, it don't like you
Wait,
already prayed your third rakah.
It's either
you pray in order.
either you say that the one you prayed with me was your first rakah, and this is your second rakah, and you pray tashahhud.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
You say you joined me and it was your first, and now it's my third.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, anyone disagree with that? You say it's your third, and then you pray your first.
Yeah.
So would you stand up in that rakah?
Yes.
You would not do tashahhud. Is that what you do?
No.
No, is that what you've been doing?
No, that's not how you.
I think I have. I don't know.
No, I don't think.
Yeah. I
I
say that I'm
Yeah.
going third with you. And then once khalas.
But
Hey,
you just-
we know it's the third.
What I've been told, if
Yeah,
it's your
it's
first
third.
rak'ah, you just jet sana and you don't say anything, like you just don't say,
Yeah, it's-
like I was always taught to just keep my mouth shut because I'm not. supposed-
That's your first.
This is my first, this is your final one, where you also do like you give salam to Ibrahim.
Okay.
So you keep quiet because this is your first rak'ah. You taught us in the beginning of the prayer that every rak'ah has to have the intention for that salah within the sequential order.
Mhm.
So if this is my first, I can get up. Sitting down and doing nothing does not go against the pillars, nor does it go against the obligations. So it's perfectly permissible that I just sit down for that, just voluntarily. Because I will inevitably get up for my second.
Okay. So that would be your first rakah with me,
Yes.
and then you would pray your third and
I would pray my
second and third.
myself.
Right.
I have my own pillars and obligations, but if I did it, but I believe I get the edge for praying in Jama'ah and whatnot, for praying with you.
You always
Right.
pray, yeah.
Okay. Anyone disagree with that?
Wait, so you should.
I don't disagree with the bit that you don't do the.
I better see you come late tomorrow on +1, and I better see you get up. And that third rak'ah. I'm serious.
Wait, I think khalas, I go.
Okay.
How you not good with there?
So you do
Okay.
tasbih.
How you not working?
Okay.
Just say I'm right, it's okay.
No. Okay.
I don't even know what was asked anymore.
Imagine they're listening to all this argument.
Of course they are.
They're watching YouTube videos right now. Just.
فلا يؤذن له فيأتي.
Okay. The majority of scholars say that it will be your second, or the opinion Muhammad and Siba said that will be your first rakah with the imam, and then you pray. That's the way. Hanbali school of thought says no.
Okay, first off, it's my victory total.
Okay. The Hanbali school of thought,
Both are right.
the Hanbali school of thought has a very complicated opinion. They say that you will join the imam and you have to. We've mentioned how strict Hanbalis are in your intention aligning with the imam's attention. So they say this is your third rakah, and when you stand up next, that is your first rakah, but you will do tashahhud in that rakah because you don't want to mess up the format of the prayer. Outwardly, it has to look like this is your second rakah, but internally, it's your
I
first
got
rakah,
confused. Man. I was close.
which is a
but-
very
yeah.
complicated opinion.
It's focusing on Nia more than anything else.
They're big on niyyah.
So you're
Holy
saying
You're
third?
big niyyah aligning with the niyyah of the
Yeah,
imam.
Sheikh, you said third?
In both
We're still right.
and in both scenarios, you have to sit in the second rakah.
Nah, but
So you said this-
it's
All right, guys.
Well, you didn't answer the question.
I'm ready.
Ma, you didn't answer the question, so yeah,
Yeah,
if I'm on the second with you, it's your last question.
yeah. You should only read what you call it, tashahhud, not salah Ibrahim.
Oh, okay, and then also the Qul Huwallahu Ahad or whatever, do I
Yeah,
have to read? Hold on, should you?
you should when you're with me, that would be your, what would we say?
That'd be your
That'd be
silent.
your last.
That would be your first
Your
rakah.
first, but I'm still following you, so I wouldn't read.
Yeah.
That. I wouldn't read.
Is it that? Sorry, yeah, you wouldn't read that. If you're with my third and fourth, you would, when you stand up and you pray two more rakahs, that's when you're gonna pray Fatiha and other surah.
That's based only on the Hanbali. because
Hanbali
they
madhab.
say three,
Hanbali.
the
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Jazakallah.
Oh yeah. Someone had a question.
Why do I know that had to be opinion?
Let's say you join the imam in his second rakah during Isha. How would you continue and finish your prayer? You just have one more rakah after Isha. You stand up after that and you add one more rakah. I don't know what the question was, or if that was a question.
Okay, I'll tell you. Assalamualaikum, Sheikh. Just wanted to know, but you said it's different for
Yes. Any
Harvard and
questions?
different. Yes. I was
No.
asking, is it
So the
different?
only
You
thing
said
I
for
got
other
wrong in the
methods?
opinion was that you had to
You-
stand up after.
Okay. I'm speaking? Yes. Okay. Just asking for
Iftirash
other
is when you
methods.
keep your right foot up and you sit on your left foot. Tawarruk is when you slide it down and you sit on your behind.
Can you hear me?
Are you still?
I can't hear you. If you could type it, that would be better.
This is how it's done, bro. It's just
Okay. Moving on. Turning right and left during taslim. Oh, it's almost 9 o'clock. Okay, no, we did that. Where are we going? Reciting in the entire of Salat al-Ibrahimiyya. As you mentioned, the minimum is that you say Salli ala Muhammad. Reading the rest of it is a sunnah for you to do so. Don't be neglectful, since now you know that it's not an obligation to do the whole thing. So recite the whole thing. The dua before taslim, which is
اللهم إني أعوذ بك.
حمات وهذا فتنة المسيح الدجال وهذا من عذاب القبر وهذا من
okay.
Dang, okay.
Okay, quickly let's go over this.
عذاب-
Do we have left? Okay. Let's cover Jum'ah and this next class. Times of prayer. Okay. Okay. Performing acts which are not from the standard acts of prayer. Things that are not from your prayer. What about Hanafis? How do you pray Isha if you join the Imam in second rakat? I think if it's only one rakah left, I think you're saying if we join the Imam in the third rakah, you have two rakahs left. That's what you're asking.
To specify join versus cloth.
That's true.
It's
That's a good point.
A lot of ambiguities.
Okay,
Is it?
guys. Performing acts which are not from the standard acts of prayer. Slight movement for a need. So your movement in prayer, which is not from the part of the prayer. So like from part of the prayer is like raising your hands, going from sujood. Those are acts of prayer. Acts of non-prayer. A slight movement for a need. Slight movement without a need. Excessive consecutive movement. Right? Those are three categories or three types of movement or acts when you are praying. Slight movement for a need. permissible, like turning off your cell phone. A person is praying, their cell phone goes off, there's a need to turn off that cell phone because it's bothering everyone. And hence, it's okay for you to turn off your cell phone. Carrying a child of the Quran, you are, praying Taraweeh, and you are following the Imam, or you're leading yourself. It's completely fine for you to hold up the Mus'haf and read from the Mus'haf. Or you're carrying a child, you have a child with you, and you're carrying it with you because you don't want them to run away or cause an issue. You can carry them. The Prophet ﷺ held his who?
The grandsons.
His grandsons, Hassan Hussein, and also
And his granddaughter.
Granddaughter Umayma,
Umayma.
right? Or
لا.
I don't think her name was Elaine, the one that came from.
Zainab?
Yeah.
No, Zainab didn't have a granddaughter.
I think it's Zainab's daughter. I think it's either Hamna or Umama.
Umayma.
It could be. Allahu Alam, I forgot. Opening the door for someone. Let's say you're praying next to the door and someone is coming.
Grandson as well.
Uthman's son. Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ opened, or either Prophet ﷺ opened it for Aisha or Aisha opened it for the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah, but not someone who lives like, you're living on the fifth story of your building, and your door
The elevator.
your DoorDash comes to the front door and you're like, I'm playing as a you give a tip as well and you like go back up. No, that's not what it is. Like if you're really close to the door where you can open the door. Counting verses. The scholars mentioned that they used to sometimes when they recite surahs like Surah Al-Kafirun, sometimes you forget how many verses are left. So it's 6 verses. So you can be like, قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون. Also, when you're doing adhkar, Subhan Rabbil Ala, Subhan Rabbil Ala, Subhan Rabbil Ala, or you're doing long sujood and you want to say, for example, a certain dua multiple times, so like, Ya Allah, bless me with that job. Oh Allah, bless me with that job. Bless me with that job. So you can repeat that, and you want to repeat that, let's say 10 times. You can count with your hand. One second. So these are some examples for movement for need. There can be many other examples that a person can do while he's praying. Slight movement. What is the difference between slight and excessive movement? It goes back to the person. If they consider it to be slight, then it's considered slight. If they consider it to be excessive, then that is considered to be excessive. Before I take a question, Dhikrullah, what other examples can you guys think of? Slight movement for a need.
I'm gonna say counting mad.
Counting mud? No, that should be okay.
Moving a chair, let's say, or something like that. Or like, let's say you're going forward, you gotta move something.
Yeah, no problem.
But adjusting, I always have to adjust my skirts myself.
Adjusting your clothes,
Oh,
sisters.
brushing, like cleaning off the place of sujood.
If something came on it and you need to clean it, yes, sure.
Killing a bug.
Moving
It's
your
all
cat.
your salah, like if a
You can like,
yeah,
yeah.
Killing is
or,
crazy. Making sound effects. I'm sorry, y'all.
What else?
Oh,
motioning your wife away.
preventing
Oh, it's not working.
preventing somebody from walking in between you and your place of sunshine.
Yeah, it could become wajib too if they insist, right? It could be something
wajib.
a necessity too.
So fight him.
Yeah. Okay. Any other examples? Oh, slight movement without a need. That is something disliked. It doesn't nullify your prayer. Your prayer is still valid, but if it was without a need, then you shouldn't do that. Like turning your head. You're praying and you turn right or left, then that is something disliked, unless there's a need. Like there's like you might be afraid of something, or you might be worried something. You might have a child who you're worried if they might be in danger. So it's okay for you to turn your head. Knuckle cracking. Huh?
Saying you scared for a kid and he's over there, you're gonna look.
Yeah, look, if it does.
Forget to look.
Yeah, if there's a need, turning the head is disliked, but not moving your entire body. Moving your entire body means
It breaks the salah.
why?
Because you changed the condition.
You're no longer facing the qibla. So moving your entire body is not okay, but moving a bit of your head is knuckle cracking. If a person praying and they start cracking their knuckles, then that is considered dislike, because that takes away from the dignity of prayer, or the khushu' of the prayer.
So you can look up because you're forgetting ayah.
Huh?
Like,
Like,
Raising your eyes meaning looking upwards.
yeah,
Yeah,
forgot.
that's not really moving your head. That's like a slight,
What about looking back when you're
like when sometimes you're praying, you slightly,
between your legs?
that's fine.
Bro, lower you go.
So raising your eyes, looking upwards is something also the same. Guys, focus. Okay, cool. questions. Does the door have to be in the direction of the Qibla? What is it not? It's fine, even if it's not in the direction of the Qibla. Can you read from the Mus'haf in Fard prayers only in Sunnah? Because that becomes excessive movement. You are holding it for too long. Fixing your hijab, yes, from the fine. Can you pray if someone is in a bed in front of you? Yes, as long as they don't move a lot. If it's someone keeps on moving in front of you, then you should not pray behind them.
Rashid, you can read from the Quran.
In Sunnah prayers.
What about like men, like, well,
Fard no. Because it becomes a lot of movement. What about eating and drinking?
No.
No?
It's haram once you do Allahu Akbar, like the takbir and ihram, it makes some things haram. And
So what if you're praying like a long night prayer and you're reciting Baqarah and Al Imran
Water, but only.
and you get thirsty and you want to like take a sip of water so you can continue praying?
No, water in Sunnah is permissible. I've heard you say that.
Water is permissible?
In Sunnah. I've heard you say something like that, yeah.
Hey,
No,
hey,
don't gaslight me.
gaslight me.
Don't gaslight me.
Yeah. So it's mentioned the Sahaba sometimes when they would pray for long periods of time, they would have a little bit of water next to them to kind of moisten their throats or if they have like dry throats, they can continue.
Yeah, 'cause it's hard to
Continue.
pronounce after a certain point.
Sorry?
It's hard to pronounce Ayin after a certain point.
Damn.
Oh, my bad.
Damn.
My bad.
only in Sunnah, right?
Only in Sunnah. Only in
Perfect
Sunnah.
Muhammad,
Yeah.
huh?
There's a little more leniency and flexibility in Sunnahs than it is in Fard prayers. Okay. Excessive consecutive movement, it nullifies your prayer. If a person, moves a lot, he's fidgeting all the time, and it becomes a lot of excessive movement. Excessive meaning it's done. The reason why I said consecutive, that if you do small movements throughout your prayer periodically, which are not consecutive, that doesn't nullify a prayer. It has to be done consecutive, where it becomes invalid. Example.
Taking too many steps.
Taking too many steps, someone might be in danger. You move to save that person or to save that person. If you're praying nafil and your parents call you, then it's you should break your prayer and you should respond to them, and so on and so forth. Right? And
You say like, I remember when I used to call my dad and I would nag him, he would say Bismillah or like Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
He would exclaim something.
Yeah.
What's the proper one to say? Because I just can't remember.
you could say any dhikr. They say you could say any dhikr. You could say Bismillah. You could be reading your Quran. You say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen or Rahman Rahim. Yeah.
I was gonna say. Oh, would stroking your beard be excessive?
They mention a stroking away with a slight movement without a need. That would be the slight.
I guess.
So would that be
But if you
similar-
keep doing your entire prayer, right, then that becomes a problem. You don't have to worry about
Would
it.
that be similar to moving?
Wait, myself, I
Would
don't.
that be similar to moving your hair out of your face?
If it's a fard prayer, no, you can't take a sip of water to continue. You can quickly finish your prayer, or if it becomes too much, you can stop it and redo it. What?
I know.
So you mentioned stroking the beard, would that be similar to like moving hair out of your face?
Same. If it's not a need, then becomes slight movement.
You just gotta tie the hair back.
So like if it was distracting, would it be considered a need?
Yes.
Okay.
It can become a need.
What about if I'm like injured and I keep touching my arm or something like that?
Oh,
What if he's injured and I keep touching his arm?
No. Actually, shit. When I used to do jiu-jitsu, I used to always like come back, I barely feel my knee.
Yeah, that would
I'm
cause
massaging them on Roku. Is that okay?
a need, meaning it's hurting your need to hold it,
Well,
but I'm afraid I might become into excessive consecutive movement. Yes.
When I was little, there was one time I did like I ate something before praying, so I like bit on it.
Yeah, so that's fine. The scholars mention if you have remaining food in your teeth and while you're praying it, you find out, it's okay for you to swallow that. It's fine.
so don't-
But that's not okay in fasting. If you're fasting, you have remaining food in your teeth, you have to spit it out.
But it's you can't chew it though. You have to
I mean, if it's stuck in your teeth, there's not much to chew.
I'm sure I can't remember if it was you, maybe it was Sheikh Arslan, but like he mentioned specifically like swallowing like what remained in your mouth is permissible, but like chewing would break the sweat.
Yeah, probably.
Chewing more than I feel like. I think he said more than once or twice.
Okay.
Just don't store a whole chicken.
Okay. We have 3 slides left, or 3 or 4 slides left.
7, yeah.
We can do it next week. I'll bring duct tape so we all close our mouths.
Maybe you can put tape on your face, but I'm not.
Oh, we'll show up
You're the
online.
one who needs clothes.
Well, guys,
Guys,
Stop.
you guys are like brother and sister.
Stop.
You're bickering.
Stop.
Show up online.
No, I bet because I have hair on my face.
Yes, can't relate.
Putting.
Guys, stop.
Okay. It's okay, we'll get you there.
All right,
Run,
we'll
run,
cover the
run.
rest inshallah next class, inshallah.
Okay.
The nullifiers, we could finish that inshallah in one class. And we'll finish the first section of the fiqh of Salah. All right. What
So,
else?
Imam Mahad was here today.
Okay.
He asked, who's a regular at the 5th class? And I was like, Muhammad, Frank. And I said, and I think there's 2 East African girls. I now found out she's Daisy.
She's
None of them are East African.
none of them.
None of them East African.